Hey, the NFL Combine is only about a month away, so it's time to start doing some real-life NFL mock drafts. Here's our 1.0 version. What is going on, Headliner Nation? Welcome back. Next episode of the Fantasy Headliners. I am Jake Hubman, joined by Mr. Kyle Richardson. Kyle, how we doing?
Doing well. Very excited to finally put out this mock draft. Started working on it about a week ago, and we got caught up doing some baseball stuff, but back to football for this video.
Yeah, absolutely. The football and baseball content is kind of going to be, is it commingled? Is that what we want to call it? Sure, whatever it is. They're all coming out together because we want to make sure the football fans stay happy. We want to make sure the baseball fans stay happy. Just look at the title. If it says football and you like football, thumbs up, watch the video. Should be a lot of fun. But yeah, like Kyle said, we've taken some time to develop our own mock draft for the NFL draft coming up here in April. And there's a lot of names out there that maybe a lot of people aren't familiar with. And we're going to kind of dive right into it, kind of give you guys, now this is pre-combine. This could change a lot after we see these guys firsthand in the combine. You know, a little bit
to change a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why we've labeled it 1.0, because I imagine there will be a 2.0, possibly even a 3.0. But we want to get an early start on. We want to get some of these names out here, and we're going to dive into it pretty quick because we're trying to keep this video on the shorter side because there's a lot to talk about. So we're going to kick it off with the number 1 overall pick, the Arizona Cardinals. And right now we both have Nick Bosa, defensive end out of Ohio State, right there at number 1. And Kyle, this is kind of the consensus number 1 among a lot of people right now.
Absolutely. He's the safest bet in this draft. And I've already done a draft profile on him. So check out the Nick Bosa draft profile, and I'll go a little bit more into him. The only thing really that would benefit the Cardinals here, other than drafting Nick Bosa, would be to trade back. But unfortunately, in this draft, there isn't that player that someone's going to trade up to number 1 and give you a whole lot for, because the Cardinals, the 49ers, the Jets, the Raiders, the Buccaneers, we don't really get to someone needing a quarterback until the New York Giants. And even then, I don't have them taking a quarterback. So then Jacksonville after that. There's a whole lot going on with this draft, but I don't see anybody actually paying the price to move up.
Yeah, and I mean, that would make a lot more sense in my opinion. I don't think Nick Bosa is going to turn the Arizona Cardinals around solely by himself. They're in need of multiple good pieces. In my opinion, they need more line on the offensive help than on the defensive side of the football. Yep. But, you know, like you said, there's not a whole lot of other options. I do kind of expect them to keep this pick, but be on the lookout. Come draft day, this could be a potential move that you just never know what could happen. Number 2, we're going to move on to the San Francisco 49ers pick, and right now we have Clelin Ferrell, the edge rusher out of Clemson. And he's somebody who I do believe that the San Francisco 49ers are going defensive line. Clelin Ferrell, it could be Josh Allen here. There's a lot of different ways this could go, and this is where we say the combine's really going to make a difference. But definitely we both agree that an edge rusher is where they're going to be going for San Francisco.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Josh Allen has the potential for more upside, but I think there's a few more questions about him. With Clelin Ferrell, I think he's a little bit of a safer option. He has that winning pedigree. He has a lot of those intangibles that maybe some of the other guys in this draft won't. He's probably not as physically gifted as Josh Allen, but he still had a really good career at Clemson as well. So I like the San Francisco 49ers to take him. I believe edge is the position that they need most in this draft.
Yeah, it is one of their highest team needs, absolutely. All right, number 3, the New York Football Jets, Jets, Jets. They need a lot of pieces also. Mm-hmm. We kind of have them pegged right now for offensive line. We have offensive tackle Cody Ford out of Oklahoma, big mauler. Definitely something that could really bolster an offensive line that could maybe be going after Le'Veon Bell here in the offseason. Is that kind of how you see things playing out?
Well, right now it looks like the New York Jets edge rusher is something that they're going to need. Offensive tackle is kind of that number 2 spot that they need, and then wide receiver after that. But I think when you look at it, I think you realize Sam Darnold is the guy that we spent a lot on last year. He's the future of this team. We need to protect him. And I think that's actually going to be what we see a lot through my mock draft. It's one of those things that I took into consideration, and I probably have a few more offensive linemen going in my mock than other mock drafts. But I think it's really pivotal that teams are starting to understand we got to protect our quarterbacks, especially these young guys, to be successful. So I think they end up spinning picks to grab some of these guys, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is kind of where you may see a lot of other mock drafts that other people and other sites are putting out. Jonah Williams out of Alabama is another one of these names who's starting to creep up more and more as we get closer and closer to the NFL draft. Another offensive tackle that could possibly go in this position also. Right now, number 4, though, another team in need of an edge rusher. It's the Oakland Raiders. They got, 3 first-round picks. They have the opportunity to do all kinds of things here in the first round. This is right now where we have Josh Allen, the edge rusher out of Kentucky. And he does, just like you said, he's got a lot of upside. He's got a lot of potential. Played at Kentucky, so he's not exactly, dealing with the big boys every single week. But it's definitely something where the talent is there, and if given the right opportunity, he could really excel.
Yes, and I think the need for Oakland to really beef up the defensive side of the ball is where they're going to go. I think also, and you'll see later on, they're going to take a look at that quarterback position a little bit more, but we'll talk about that then. But with the Oakland Raiders, I think they really need to get somebody on the edge. Josh Allen, somebody that a lot of people think is a top talent in this draft, has fallen to number 4 to them. They spin that pick and they move on.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, next up, number 5. The now Tampa Bay Buccaneers, led by one Bruce Arians, making a lot of different moves here. We have them pegged to pick up Jonah Williams, offensive tackle out of Alabama. Kind of mentioned him a little bit ago. Somebody who's going to be creeping up draft boards all along, everywhere over the next few weeks or so. And right now, offensive line is definitely where they need some help for Tampa Bay. If they can't give Jameis Winston an ample amount of time, it's going to continue to be turnover city there in Tampa Bay. They need to start establishing a little bit of a run game there. That starts up front, and Jonah Williams out of Alabama is where we have going to Tampa Bay.
Yeah, you have to get the most out of Jameis Winston this year. It's really going to be his final year unless he shows him he deserves a contract extension. So protect him, give him time to throw on this Bruce Arians vertical offense. He's going to need that time. They need a lot of help on defense, and it's something that they need to address in this draft. But you have to take an offensive lineman here to help protect Jameis Winston. So I think they go with Williams.
Yep, absolutely. All right, next up we have the New York Football Giants, and another team with multiple needs, but they have a lot of good pieces, right? They have Saquon Barkley, Eli Manning still a question mark, Odell still there, Evan Ingram, Sterling Shepard, lots of pieces. But we need to bolster that offensive line a little bit more. And right now we come to one of the funnest names to say in the draft, Yodny Cajuste, offensive tackle out of West Virginia. Somebody who we've done a little bit of watching on him, and he's somebody who could really, he's an athletic offensive lineman that can go out there and really attempt to move this offense in the right direction, take another step forward, because they have tons of pieces all over the field. They're just kind of missing a little bit here and there, offensive lines where they need the most help.
Yeah, and a lot of people are going to say, really, offensive line, you don't think that they're going to go quarterback here. And I think we're going to continue to see them and hear them talk about going quarterback. But everything I've heard says they're sticking with Eli Manning this year. 100% they're sticking with Eli Manning. And if that's the case and they want to try and win this year, which I think they do, they're going to need to protect Eli Manning. They can't have him laying on his back all game long. They need to give Saquon Barkley as many holes to run through as possible. And with Cajuste, he does, in pass protection, he needs to get a little bit better, but he does work well with his run blocking, and that is part of the reason that I mocked him here. My mock draft always has a little bit of what I would like to see happen, plus what I think will happen, plus probably what will happen. There's like 3 different things that you could take into consideration. This is one of those things that I would like to see them. If they were going to be dedicated to Eli Manning this year, spin the pick on the offensive line, get a guy that's great in run protection, get those lines open or get those holes open for Barkley and really rely on him, and then have Eli Manning try to do what he can as more of a game manager moving forward.
Right. Absolutely. 100% agree. All right. Next up, number 7 overall, the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, I think the Blake Bortles experiment has come to an end. It's time for something different in Jacksonville. This is where we have quarterback Dwayne Haskins out of Ohio State. Now, we did mention how a lot can change between now and then. There's been rumors floating around that Nick Foles could possibly end up in Jacksonville at some point. This is something where we need to pay attention to, because obviously if that happens, this pick will go a different direction. And it would not surprise me either. Is there a chance that they know they're going to need a quarterback? There's not a whole lot of teams after them going to be going after quarterbacks. Maybe it's a possibility for them to trade back and get one here at the end of the first round and gain an extra pick or two out of it for Jacksonville.
Yeah, so these mock drafts will start to take a little bit more shape after the combine, which is February 26th through March 4th, and then free agency starts March 13th before late April. Then we have the draft. So at that point, we're going to find out a little bit more. Like you said, do they try to make a run at a veteran quarterback like Nick Foles, or do they save the pick and they go elsewhere and try to take their guy? I feel like they're so close to winning and they just won a couple of years ago that it's, do you really spend a pick on a rookie quarterback and try to bring him in and maybe have a year or two before there's a whole lot that could happen between now and then, but Dwayne Haskins should and probably will be the top rated quarterback in this draft. So we're going to slot him in here because it's the position that they most need.
And is this the point where we need to say he's more of a mobile quarterback than anything else and then we make no sense?
Throwing no shade there, are you?
I'm not
Jake?
naming any names. I'm just saying. Anyway, we'll let that go. That was just for fun. That one was for free. The next one's going to cost you. All right, going number 8 overall. Now we have the Detroit Lions, another team in need of some defensive line help. Right now we have Brian Burns, edge rusher out of Florida State, somebody coming off a great year where he had 10 sacks this past season, and he's somebody who could definitely solidify that defensive line where they need some help for the Detroit Lions.
So Brian Burns, now I'm a Lions fan. You can see Mr. Barry, the GOAT Sanders right there hanging up. So taking a look at this pick, I thought, what will happen and what would I love to see happen and what I would love to see happen and what I think could happen, Brian Burns, because Brian Burns is actually one of the most exciting prospects to watch for me. I think by the time that we're done with the combine, we're talking about this guy is potentially a top 5 pick. That's why I don't know if he'll end up making it here, but he is so physically gifted. He is a guy that can get into the backfield, get after the quarterback. He's a guy that can stop, get the run. He's a guy that can drop back and play some coverage plays. He is super athletic. There's not a whole lot that you can say about this guy in terms of trying to bring him down, other than he just, building himself up a little bit more. He needs to just be, if he was just a little bit bigger, then maybe he's got that perfect mold. But I think he's a guy by the end of the draft or by the end of the combine, we're talking about this guy as one of the best prospects in this draft.
Yep, agreed. All right, number 9, Buffalo Bills, and they need some help on offense. That defense isn't horrible in Buffalo. Mm-hmm. Well, right now, one of their most glaring needs is the wide receiver position. And this is something definitely where the combine is going to come into effect, because right now we have DK Metcalf, wide receiver out of Ole Miss, somebody who is a big play threat in an offense where we know Josh Allen can throw it like 312 yards in the air. It's a piece they need. However, this could maybe be like a N'Keal Harry, something like that. We both do see a wide receiver going in this position, though. Right now, though, DK Metcalf going in at 9th overall.
The reason I put DK Metcalf here is because I think you look at him and you watch him on tape and you think, man, this kid can be really, really, really special. And while N'Keal Harry is probably a safer bet, I think the Bills are going to look at Metcalf and say, we see somebody with a really high ceiling here. We want to pair him with Josh Allen. DK Metcalf is a guy that can take the top off the field. He can do a lot of different things well. What the problem is, what tape do we have on him? Do we think that he's a little bit too much of a risk? The Buffalo Bills, they don't seem to be worried about risk, or they wouldn't have drafted Josh Allen last year.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly. They're all about the risk, Kyle.
All about it. But with DK Metcalf, just one quick other thing to point out, if my notes will load here. So he only has, during 2016, 2 games, 2017, 12 games, 2018, 7 games. He's still got some growing to do. He's, like I said, what tape do we have on him? Because he's one of the wide receivers in this draft that, again, has that high upside, but we just haven't seen it at the college level yet because he didn't play a ton. He was with injuries and other things.
And we said it with the Buffalo Bills. I don't think anybody out there outside of Buffalo thinks that they're contending for the Super Bowl next year. They're trying to put some good pieces in place and build a team. DK Metcalf may be a little raw, may need some more work, but let's be realistic. A lot of people in Buffalo need more work. If they could mesh and build and grow together, it could be something, in the next year or two that is really, beneficial for the offense there in Buffalo. Mm-hmm. All right, number 10 overall, the Denver Broncos. Case Keenum wasn't quite what a lot of people thought. I know last preseason I was a little bit higher on Case Keenum. I expected a little bit more out of that offense. Didn't see it. So we have them pegged for a quarterback here, Drew Lock, quarterback out of Missouri, somebody who's been, started there for 4 years. He's had over 3,000 yards passing 3 straight years. He's definitely somebody with some experience. I mean, he threw for 44 touchdowns back in 2017. He's mature enough to go in there to a Denver Broncos team now with a new coaching staff and hopefully build for the future here. Now, this is also something where is Kyler Murray an option here also?
I'm going to make this one short and sweet for you. The reason that I have Lock here is because John Elway has come out and said that he likes Lock.
Yeah. So
that's it. That's the reason I put him there. He's made it known at this point that he likes him. I think he does draft a quarterback because even if he were to sign like a Nick Foles, or he tries to bring someone else in to replace to replace at the position right now, over Keenum, I don't think that they'll go through this draft and not try and get a quarterback. They made that mistake last year.
Yep, absolutely. All right, the next one, I can tell your tail is wagging already, so I'm going to let you cover a lot of this next one. Number 11 for the Cincinnati Bengals. They're in need of a linebacker. We already know that. Devin Bush, linebacker out of Michigan. Everybody sees the Michigan helmet in the background. This is one of your boys, and this would be a great landing spot for him.
It would be, and I'm going to end up going pretty quick on the next couple of picks just because I'm going to spend a minute talking about this pick here. So is the draft pick here of Devin Bush a little early? Probably. I don't think I would actually put Devin Bush this high if it weren't for such a great fit. So if the Cincinnati Bengals were for some reason to move back, I think they can move back and still get Bush at some point. But I have him here because of that perfect fit. The one thing that Devin Bush is really, really, really good at is getting into the backfield when the holes are there. He's explosive. He's fast. He's all over the place. He's a little undersized though, and at the college level, sometimes the bigger athletes, the ones that are truly upper echelon athletes, he has trouble getting away from them. In this format, when you have a Geno Atkins and a Carlos Dunlap on the front line that can create those holes where the offensive line has to worry about him, it's going to make a ton of space for Bush to get into the backfield and get after quarterbacks. I think this is an absolute perfect fit and the one pick that I would love to absolutely see happen.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be a perfect fit. And like you also mentioned, good point that there's a chance that they don't need to take him at 11. I think he could fall a little bit lower, and if they do decide to trade back, it'd still be a player they could end up with.
Yep.
Next up, 12th overall, Green Bay Packers. They have a few needs also. Right now we have them as their number one need being at the safety position, and we're picking Deionte Thompson, safety out of Alabama. This guy's a little bit of a roller coaster. I mean, he's a huge talent, but he takes some risks, but he also has a high reward with him. He's definitely a solid player coming out of Alabama. He's used to that type of offense, that type of defense, and the Green Bay Packers could be a great fit for him.
Yep. Haha, Clinton Dix out of Green Bay. They're going to Jeez Louise.
What did you just say? Can't say that on the internet. It's horrible.
All right, censored. Okay, so they're going to need a safety. They really need to work on that. They're really going to need to work on that defense. I think they're pretty much set now at this point on the offensive side of the ball. Let's work on the defense and in a division that's going to be offensive friendly, probably.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's see here. Next up, number 13, the Miami Dolphins, another team which we could see going the quarterback route. We have Daniel Jones, quarterback out of Duke. And a lot of people are like, Duke plays football? Like, a lot of people just think Duke is just basketball. No, the kid had a great year. I think he's a little bit farther along. He's more mature than a lot of people have, expected for him. And going to Miami could be a great fit for Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I think one thing that turned some people off Daniel Jones is he kind of regressed last season when a lot of people expected him to take a huge step forward. Not all his fault, though. I do think the Miami Dolphins, they should worry about other things than a quarterback and just let Ryan Tannehill take another year, but that's not going to happen. They're going to draft their quarterback. It's going to be Daniel Jones.
Yep, exactly. All right, number 14 overall, Atlanta Falcons. Right now we have some of their highest needs being the defensive tackle, the interior side on the defensive line. and this is where Quinnen Williams, defensive tackle of Alabama, we have slotted in right now. But there's another name out there, which I think we're going to talk about a little bit later, but I could also see somebody like maybe a Rashawn Gary or somebody going all the way up here if he shows out during the combine.
Yeah, absolutely. Quinnen Williams, some people talk about this guy being a top 10 pick, having that capability. So for him to fall this far would be probably a little bit surprising, but because of the scenarios I've played out in my mock, I have him coming down here to the Atlanta Falcons, will work really well on the interior of that defensive line. A really good defense, just had a lot of injuries last year. He would help them.
Yep, absolutely. All right, number 15, the Washington Redskins. They're in need of some wide receiver help, and hopefully we hear something about Alex Smith here in the future. I mean, the dude has like 64 pieces of steel in his leg. I mean, he's like the Bionic Man, except not so much. Right now we have them getting N'Keal Harry, wide receiver out of Arizona State, somebody who we talked about here, in past videos, who could be the number one wide receiver in this draft. I think they need some offensive line help in Washington. But if some of the names we've already talked about are already gone, I could see them going the N'Keal Harry way. Like I said, it could be one of those things where they get their playmaker on the offensive side of the football.
Yeah, if Harry were to fall this far, I don't think it's possible for them to pass up such a gifted player at a position that really is a need. So yeah, I would expect them to go wide receiver here, especially if Harry's available.
Would you ever feel awkward if the name on the back of your jersey said Harry? Like, would you get like self-confident, or like what's a lack of self-confidence?
I don't wear a whole lot of jerseys anymore, but no.
Not you in general. I'm talking about if your last name was Harry. Never mind, Kyle. Moving on. Going to number 16, the Carolina Panthers. The Cam Newton-less Carolina Panthers, possibly. They're in need of some pieces. I mean, Julius Peppers, he was 52 years old. He finally retired. Now we have them needing some offensive line help. Dalton Risner. Is it Risner or Risner?
I've been pronouncing it Risner.
Okay, well, we're going to say Risner because we talked about it before the show, and to be completely honest, I totally forgot when it came time to say his name. But offensive tackle out of Kansas State, definitely a need for the Carolina Panthers, especially since they lost Andrew Norwell last season to Jacksonville. Offensive line was a little bit of a problem for the Panthers this season.
Yeah, so Risner playing out in the Big 12 probably doesn't get seen by too many people, but he is really good. He's really good technique-wise, and that's what I like about him, and that's why I think he ends up going here. Again, doesn't see the elite competition out there that some other people might, but like I mentioned already, quarterbacks need to be taken care of. I think a lot of people are going to understand that, and they move on some guys like a Dalton Risner, even though they probably need an edge rusher a little bit more. Get the offensive tackle, protect their investment in Cam Newton, and let that offense continue to run fluidly like it did last year.
Yep. All right, number 17, the Cleveland Browns, the upstart Cleveland Browns, maybe the playoff-bound 2019. I'm not going to go that far into it.
Super Bowl champion.
Super Bowl contending Cleveland Browns. Anyway, they need some help at the cornerback position. And I didn't say quarter. I said corner as in DB. Right now we have Byron Murphy, cornerback out of Washington, going to the Cleveland Browns to try to help shore up that defensive side of the football and cut down on some of that passing offense against them.
I think you said that wrong. Did you say Washington or did you say cornerback U?
Oh, sorry. I was like, I did? How do I mispronounce Washington?
Byron Murphy, absolutely. Cleveland Browns, they're going to be electric on offense, I think, this year. Their defense was really good at times last year. There was a few bumps and a couple of things where they said that we could think that they could get a lot better. A guy like Byron Murphy just helps them take the next step up. Cross from Denzel Ward on the other side. Then you've got two really good cornerbacks shutting down the competition. This team is headed for the playoffs.
Yep, I totally agree. All right, number 18. A lot of people aren't going to agree with that, but I agree with it. Number 18, the Minnesota Vikings. They are in desperate need of offensive line help. Also, we have Chris Lindstrom, who's a guard out of Boston College, going 18th overall to the Minnesota Vikings. They need to kind of redo their thought process on the offensive side of the football. They got plenty of pieces with Dalvin Cook going to be healthy next year. You still have Diggs and Thielen and Kirk Cousins. We need to get these guys some more opportunities, some more time. Chris Lindstrom would hopefully shore up the interior offensive line and help out.
Yeah, and this is probably a little bit of a reach here, and more than likely there will be other offensive linemen available here. If it plays out a little bit differently, of course, like I already mentioned, this is very offensive line heavy for me. Gary Kubiak, I mean, he's the new offensive coordinator. I really think that they're going to lean on the run more, but just overall, the offensive line has to be better. So a little bit of a reach here, but it's the position of need. They go for it, and they take Chris Lidstrom.
Yep, absolutely. All right, number 19, the Tennessee Titans. They're in some desperate need of some offensive help. Also, we have wide receiver Deebo Samuel, which is also fun to say, out of South Carolina. Could he be somebody they could put opposite of Corey Davis and hopefully try to get something going on the offensive side of the football through the air?
Yeah, so they do need an edge rusher, but I'm going Deebo Samuel here because of two reasons. Number one, wide receiver is the next closest thing that they need. They need to give Marcus Mariota another weapon, and I think Deebo Samuel is a guy that they can do a lot with. They can move him inside, they can move him outside, they can put him all over the field, and they can really use him to open up and bring the defense a little bit closer to the line, especially with Derrick Henry. If they end up running the ball a little bit more this year, opens up options for Corey Davis down the field. I like his ability to move inside, outside, play the slot, play whatever they end up doing with him. That's why I have him here, because I think it's a good fit.
Yep. All right, number 20 overall, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who knows who's going to be on the team for the Pittsburgh Steelers this coming up year. They have multiple needs depending on who's there and who is not. But one glaring need is cornerback. And the defensive back position, we have Greedy Williams, cornerback out of LSU, which what I thought was almost somewhat of DBU, but it could be Wash. I mean, it's a toss-up. There's been some good names out of both schools, but Greedy Williams, cornerback out of LSU to the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers gave up a lot of yards through the air last year, and if there's one need on the defensive side, that's going to be it for the Pittsburgh Steelers out of right now, and Greedy Williams is a definite good fit for that team.
Yep. Yeah, I'm going to go with Greedy Williams here. They need to work on the defensive side of the ball. Cornerback is an option. He's one of the top-rated players left on the board at this point. I think he slots in perfectly there. They need to get better on defense.
Yes, absolutely. All right, the 21st overall pick, the Seattle Seahawks, another team in need of some safety help. I mean, there was a little bit of a surprise for Seattle this year. I think the defensive side of the football was better than a lot of people had expected.
Oh, yeah.
But Nasir Adderley, safety out of Delaware, a small school pick, somebody with some big talent, though, going to Seattle 21st overall is a possibility.
Yep, and I think this is also a little bit of a reach. I don't necessarily think Adderley is a first-round pick. I think he's very good. I think he's going to be a very good player. But again, the fit, Adderley being available at this point, I think he plays. Bigger than what he is. I do like his potential. You have to wonder though, small school, how does that work out coming from Delaware? But I think the combine is going to be a place that he puts a lot of those doubts to rest, and then he does move up the draft boards. As of right now, probably a little bit of a reach. We'll see if it continues to be that after the combine.
Yep. All right. 22nd overall, Baltimore Ravens. They're going to need some wide receiver help, and there's going to be a guy available for them at this point that could really give them their true number one receiver. I mean, Crabtree wasn't really what – actually, no, Crabtree was exactly what a lot of people thought he was going to be. And we know exactly now with Lamar Jackson. You like how I threw that in there? I totally had that planned.
Yes.
Because, I mean, if you haven't heard us, the hashtag around here is never crabs because – who wants crabs? Hakeem Butler is somebody who we have pegged to go to the Baltimore Ravens 22nd overall. Lamar Jackson, I don't think is ever going to be that type of quarterback that's going to drop back and throw the ball 30, 40 times a game, obviously. But I think if they have somebody that can draw some of that defensive attention that is a real threat, that could really open up the field more for Lamar Jackson, even more running lanes to continue to help them move the ball down the field.
Yeah, the one thing that they're going to need is a big-bodied wide receiver in the end zone to give Lamar Jackson, another really good target. Love Hakeem Butler. Absolutely love this guy. He was the guy that I really started watching more and more at the beginning of the season, and then people started to take notice. So I am really excited to see where he ends up going in this draft. I think this is a great fit. I think he's a need. Also to keep in mind, John Brown is a free agent. So if John Brown leaves, then they need a wide receiver even more there. I think he's a good fit.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's see where we're at. 23rd overall, the Houston Texans. Another team that we need to get some offensive line help. Otherwise, Deshaun Watson's going to be running for his life here for years to come. We have an offensive tackle, Jawan Taylor, out of Florida State. Dude is huge. He's like the size of a school bus. If there's any knock on him, it's his hands. He kind of struggles with holding calls at times. But as far as pass blocking wise, giving Deshaun Watson that added time, he's definitely a good option for him here at 23.
Absolutely. And again, probably a little bit of a reach here, especially if these offensive tackles don't go off the board as early as we have them mocked. But I think Juwan Taylor is a very good player. I think he's a guy who's lost a little bit of value over the last couple of years, but people have been keeping an eye on him. Very, very good as a pass blocker, though. You already mentioned that. Deshaun Watson needs more time. He was hit way too much this year. He was sacked way too much this year. Didn't get nearly enough time. Houston Texans go with exactly what they need here.
Yep. All right. The 24th overall pick, another Oakland Raiders pick. And this one could get interesting. I think we believe in. It really depends if Derek Carr is John Gruden's guy or not. And I think this is kind of where we're going to find out or not, because right now we have Kyler Murray, quarterback out of Oklahoma, going to the Oakland Raiders at 24th overall. Now, if Carr is his guy, this pick obviously changes. However, there was times last season where it was almost evident that I think John Gruden was just buying his time to get a different option, that Derek Carr is really not going to be his quarterback of the future there for the Oakland Raiders.
Yeah, and to make this clear, I don't hate Derek Carr.
No, me neither.
I think he's a fine NFL quarterback. I think he's taking too much heat right now for a situation that really isn't that good. But this is what it boils down to at this pick. Kyler Murray falls because other teams are worried about him. They don't think that he's going to end up playing football. He'll end up playing baseball. And he slides down to the Oakland Raiders here, where they look at each other and they say, you know what? We already have a young quarterback. If for some reason this doesn't work out and Kyler Murray slights us, we're okay. We just wasted a first-round pick, yeah, but we're going to take a shot here because this guy's electric. He's got a lot of really good traits at the quarterback position. He's a guy that if he does play football and he signs, he could be starting next year for Oakland. Their impending move to Las Vegas here pretty soon. I mean, there's just a lot of things here where it says this just seems like an Oakland Raiders pick.
Yeah, 100% agree. All right, 25th overall, the Philadelphia Eagles. And I kind of hope this pick doesn't happen. It's another one of your Michigan boys. It's Rashawn Gary, defensive tackle out of Michigan. That defense has a lot of great pieces on it. We already know what's going on the offensive side of the football. It does sound like we said Nick Foles will be leaving. Rashawn Gary, though, is somebody who could create a lot of havoc on that defensive line. That defensive line that was already one of the best against the run this past year, and he could really give them a nice young talent to continue to build around the defensive side of the football.
Yep, and you give them 2 University of Michigan players on that defensive line, because Brandon Graham at defensive end, also from Michigan. But Rashawn Gary played defensive end in college. He seemed like that's where he was going to go. And some mock drafts and some people analyzing the draft still have him as a defensive end. But there is a lot of people who think if he slides inside, he'll be much, much better. He'd be very quick on the inside. He might have a little bit of trouble of beating some really good NFL tackles around the outside. So I do have to agree. I think he could play either or and be just fine. I think he might end up being a little bit better inside, though. This seems like a really good match here, though.
Yeah, it does. It fits what they do there in Philadelphia. It would be a great addition for him. All right, 26th overall, Indianapolis Colts. We have Ed Oliver, defensive tackle out of Houston, somebody who created all kinds of havoc on the interior defensive line, but not a whole lot of people know about it because there's not a whole lot of national recognition for players out of Houston. But Ed Oliver is a huge talent on the defensive line that could really give the Indianapolis Colts a solid interior pass rush.
Yeah, and I think the Indianapolis Colts could look at a wide receiver at some point too. I don't think that this is the spot to do it though, with Ed Oliver being available. The defense got progressively better last season. It was nice. I mean, they seemed like they would be doomed at the beginning of the season, and they got better, and better. I mean, this is a guy who has 53 tackles for loss over his 3-year career at the University of Houston. So those numbers right there show what he can do. He's a little undersized, but even for his size, he's able to burst through the line really, really well with a lot of great defensive players already. A lot of good defensive players. I want to say great, good defensive players there already. I think he'd be the perfect fit for him.
Yep. All right, 27th overall, once again, the Oakland Raiders. And this is where I'm going to just take a stab at this name. And if I get it right, hit it up in the comment section. Give me a thumbs up, because it's Amani I tried it. Oruwariye.
I'll take that. There you
Amani
go.
Oruwariye. We're just going to call him Show Me Your O Face. That's what we're going to call him going forward. Put a hashtag in front of it.
Do we have a new hashtag?
We could.
Already, and he's not even in the league.
Well, he's on defense too, so I don't know how that's going to work out. But definitely corner. Just make sure I didn't, mispronounce that. Corner, defensive back out of Penn State. Another one of the needs for the Oakland Raiders. This will be their third pick in the first round. This way, it'll kind of get that overall help that they're looking for in the first round. Amani is an athletic DB that could really help them on the defensive side of the football.
Yeah, and he projects as a really, really smart football player. He knows what he's supposed to do at all times on the field. Love that about him. It's exactly what the Oakland defense needs. One of his issues, though, is trying to bring down guys after they have the ball. So that's something he has to work on.
Yeah, that's definitely something that's needed at the NFL level. Let's see here. 28th overall, the Los Angeles Chargers. They have a few needs. Offensive line needs some help. Also on the defensive line, and we have defensive tackle Jeffrey Simmons out of Mississippi State going to the Los Angeles Chargers, trying to get a little bit of stability there on the interior defensive line there for the Chargers.
Yeah, so here's the thing with Jeffrey Simmons that you have to keep in mind. He's not coming to the combine because he has the domestic violence issues in his past.
Mm-hmm.
But as a football player, talking solely as a football player, he is a very, very good football player. He's going to get a chance to play. He's going to be a guy. I mean, this happened back in 2016. Has he changed? We'll see. I'm not here to judge him as a person. That's not my responsibility to do that. But he has a lot of ability. So I think he does fall. I mean, this is a guy that if he had no prior histories, he's a guy that would probably be taken more towards the top of the first round. He's not going to get a chance to show off for teams. Probably going to slip a little bit. Can come down here to the Los Angeles Chargers. They take him there because it is such a good fit. And they end up going that route, even though he has a little bit of a history that you might have to keep an eye on.
Yeah, that's something we're going to have to pay attention to as we go along. All right, number 29, the Kansas City Chiefs. We have them picked for Devin White, linebacker out of LSU. Another one of these, highly athletic linebackers. He's had 25 tackles for loss in the last 2 seasons. He's had over 120 total tackles in each of the last 2 seasons. Definitely a huge performer at a linebacking position that is a definite need for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, and the Kansas City Chiefs, they probably need help in the secondary first before they work on linebacker. But the reason I have Devin White going here is because he's considered by many to be the top linebacker in the draft. Just there's not a whole lot of need for him to go in the first round because other teams have other areas that they need to be working on. More than likely, he'll end up going before Devin Bush, even though I have it backwards. But Bush. Because he falls so – what?
Nothing.
What'd you say?
Nothing. You said Bush.
Mikey, more than likely he'll go ahead of Devin Bush. But anyway, they have it set up here. Such a great player to fall so far. They end up getting great value on him, and they take him here, even though they could use some help in the secondary first.
Yep. All right. Number 30, the Green Bay Packers. Once again, right here is where we have Noah Fant, tight end out of Iowa going. I mean, he's a lot better, a lot cheaper option than Jimmy Graham. That whole experiment is over. Does Green Bay really utilize their tight ends? Not so much. But it's a cheap price tag for a highly athletic tight end that could give them another option on the offensive side of the football.
Yeah, a lot of people consider Fant to be one of the more high upside players in the draft with great receiving ability, can do a lot of mismatches. Green Bay uses their second first-round pick on him here because they do have some question marks about their number 2 and 3 wide receivers. Who are those going to be? They get another receiving option here for Aaron Rodgers.
Yep. All right. Number 32 overall, the Los Angeles Rams. We have Mack Wilson, linebacker out of Alabama. And I think this is, I don't want to say, a lock, obviously, because the names are obviously going to change. But I do believe this is going to obviously be on the defensive side of the football, which is crazy because some of the money that they spent on that defense just didn't produce what was needed at times throughout the year. And Mack Wilson is going to be a young piece for them that can really solidify their linebacking core.
Yeah, Mack Wilson is really good at running with guys out of the backfield. So they don't really have a linebacker that is very good at doing that. Mack Wilson, a lot of people think he might be the linebacker 2. in this draft, or linebacker 3. So again, another guy that falls due to other needs being met in the draft first would be a good fit for them in their scheme.
Yep. All right, number 32 overall, we have the New England Patriots. To me, they don't have a whole lot of needs really, but we have Montez Sweat, edge rusher out of Mississippi State. But I could also see them being a little bold here. And could they possibly go wide receiver with like a Kelvin Harmon? As of right now, though, we do have Montez Sweat, edge rusher out of Mississippi State, who is an absolute beast that would really help shore up that defensive line.
Yeah, Trey Flowers is a free agent. They could end up losing him. If that happens, they have to have somebody else. Montez Sweat would fit that role for them. I do agree that a wide receiver is something that they will take a look at. We didn't expect them to take Sony Michel last year in the first round, and they did. Will they do the same thing this year? Right now, I think defensive line looks to be the key moving forward, but that could change. But that's what I have right now.
Yep. All right. Well, hey, we just blitzed through 32 picks as fast as we possibly could with giving some insight in there. Like we said, though, this is going to change multiple times throughout the next few weeks. We're going to make sure we're going to stay on top of this stuff and keep talking about it. Numerous shows. I'll make sure that Kyle gets all that knowledge that he has out on video, because Kyle is an extremely knowledgeable person, right, Kyle?
I like to think I am.
Oh yeah, you're way smart. Anyway, but yeah, like I said, we really appreciate your support. Make sure you guys are hitting that like button. Make sure you're hitting subscribe also if you're new here to the channel. We really appreciate you guys. Lots of fantasy football content coming up. Still got fantasy baseball out there. And then don't forget, we're going to be diving in, hard to the NFL Combine and the NFL Draft here in the next few weeks, trying to figure out all these picks and who's going where. A lot of fun. We really appreciate you. Make sure you're following us both on Twitter. Go check out Kyle at krich1532. You can find me at Fantasy Headliners, FNTSY Headliners. And we'd love to talk to you. We pride ourselves on being one of the most interactive channels out there, and that is not going to change going forward. Any questions, any comments, maybe you have somebody that you thought would go to in a certain spot, put it down below. We'd like to hear everybody's opinions too. We always like to talk some football. So make sure you guys have a good rest of your week. We'll be talking to you later. Have a good one. Thanks.